made a quote that you cannot invest your way out of poverty. Investments generally are not for people that are poor. So what did I now do? I now stopped reading books that talk about how to become rich. I started reading books that talks about poverty. And just in case you want to study poverty also, okay, well, it's not funny. I know it's not funny. Why would somebody want to study poverty? Because to conquer something, you have to know about that thing. Before flight became possible, scientists had to study gravity. What books do I recommend to study if you want to really study about poverty? Why Nations Fail is a good one. Mystery of Capital, man. Hi. I hope you can hear me. This video is actually meant to be a lot of things. The video is actually meant to be funny. It's meant to be also insightful. But see, until the teaching grace comes back on me, I don't think I will do anything professional. So this is what you're going to get for for some time. So this book is about money. I mean, sorry, not this book. This recording is actually about money. It's about economics generally. That's the foundation of what we're talking about today. I don't know why I keep saying the excerpt where I got the inspiration to do this teaching is from Malcolm Gladwell, Outliers. I have a soft copy here. In case you're watching this and you want access to it, you can just chat me up. Then I can tell you where to get the book from, where to buy the book. Or I don't mean I will not give you a pirated copy. So it's actually from the garment care industry. What chapter is that? We are gisting. The video is nothing serious. It's not a serious video, so it's gist. My network is not that strong. I would have gone on live, but I don't have that kind of network for live now. Why are you people playing with me? I actually read it I read this book a long time ago, so I'm trying to. The garment care industry is the title of the book. So it's the title of the chapter, but I think it's inside one of this. I think it's the Jamaican story. Let's go to epilogue. So I'll get it. So I've actually studied both divide. I've studied how to become rich. I've studied riches. But one thing I've seen about books written on how to become wealthy is that somebody coming from poverty can hardly apply the things they talk about. I don't know where I saw it. Somebody made a quote that you cannot invest your way out of poverty. You can only investments generally are not for people that are poor. Okay, let's use a book like. Let's start with a definition of poverty. What is poverty? Poverty is one's inability to access capital. So generally, poverty is not about not having money. It's about your inability to generate capital, because for you to have access to a capitalist economy, you need capital. And once you don't have the ability to have access to capital, once you can't access capital in a capitalist economy, you are poor. You're going to be poor. So most books written about riches, about becoming wealthy, don't talk about how to access capital. They just go into investment. So what did I now do? I now stopped reading books that talk about how to become rich. I started reading books that talks about poverty. And the funny thing is, when an author wants to write about poverty, what does that author do? The author focuses on third world nations like Nigeria. The author will, they hardly will you see any book written about poverty and the plot of that book is the US. The author is definitely going to come down to Africa. So that is why, so you will find things that are written particularly to the economy when it comes to, particularly to Nigeria, particularly to Africa when it comes to poverty. So just in case you want to study poverty also, just in case you want to study poverty also, okay, well, it's not funny. I know it's not funny. Why would somebody want to study poverty? Because to conquer something, you have to know about that thing. Before flight became possible, scientists had to study gravity. They had to study it to the point that they got to know how to break the yoke of poverty to leave the orbit of the earth. So that's the reason. So to break poverty, you have to study poverty. And what books do I recommend to study if you want to really study about poverty? Why Nations Fail is a good one. Mystery of Capital, man. Mystery of Capital is another great book. There's this one that talks about the Protestant Reformation. What's the title of that book, Seth? I'll get to the title. But it's also written in English, so you may find it difficult reading it. And then there's another one, the one which I have here, Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. So I'm trying to trace that particular industry. So this is a prelude to a podcast I will be releasing titled The Loop of Poverty. The likelihood that poverty will be transferred to you if you are from a poor home is above average. The likelihood that you're going to be poor because your parents were poor is above average. So this is to say that for you to break poverty, for you to break the back of poverty from your life, you have to be extremely, extraordinarily conscious of the fact that you were born poor. This is not the time. The reason why this is as if poverty is transmitted from one generation to the next generation to the next generation is because people just think they would break out of the loop by default. People just think they can pray their way out of it. Yes, you can actually pray and then wisdom will be granted. And then when that wisdom is granted, you don't get to know this 1, 2, 3. You don't get to know that you have to do 1, 2, 3 to break it. But let me not say that one before it becomes a fight. So I'm looking for that title, that chapter, the garment care industry. Oh, I have it, lesson 9, the garment care industry. This part of the book talks about immigrants that moved to a different economy and they discovered they broke the back of poverty. How did they do it? They saw a pattern that immigrants that come into a country and then they focus on a particular profession tends to transfer their poverty that they came into the country with to the next generation. But then they now studied the garment care industry and they saw that the garment care industry had a way of making it that people in that industry don't get to transfer poverty to the next generation. This study we are doing now is a big one. Let me give you an example. I know I've said a lot. Even me, I can't place a hold on all the things I've said. I've said a lot in this short time. This is 10 minutes. I've said a lot in this short time that I've spoken. And I'm being careful not to say some things. But look at it. You have a 9 to 5, especially if you're somebody that stays in Lagos. A 9 to 5. If we look at it, you stay in the French because you can't afford housing in the city center. Because what? You're like the first person trying to break the back of poverty in your family. Or even if somebody else have broken the back of poverty, the person wouldn't give you that much money as support for you to, as springboard for you to thrive on. Now you literally don't have time to chase anything outside that job that you're doing. And then imagine me asking you, how are you going to break out of that circle, of that rat race, of going to work every day, of visiting your house? And then when you tend to now say you are moving to a different state, the state you're now moving to tend not to pay you enough, tend not to have the same opportunity that Lagos has. I think we'll do a part 2. Let me stop here. This will be the introduction. Because we may have lost my chain of thoughts. But like I said, I'm not going to color anything when I release that. This is more like a rehearsal for the teaching grace to come back. As in I've missed teaching.